Today we're going to do something a little bit different. So today we are not going to be going through a meditation, but rather a reflection. And because it is mid-year, this is a wonderful time to look back, reflect on the previous 6 months that have been, and to assess our goals and intentions that we set 6 months, 5 months, heck, even a month ago, and really determine how we want to move through the rest of the year with intention. So this is an exercise that you do not need to do as a sitting down meditation. This is something that you can do in your car. This is something you can do in bed. I would suggest to have a thoughtful, silent environment. So some space for you to be able to really consider and dive into the emotions and thoughts and kind of mental work, mental emotional work of reflection, and give yourself the chance, the time, the space, the environment that's not going to detract from that. So if you've got a really loud environment, you've got a lot of distractions around, see if you can minimize those as much as possible. And if it also helps, this is a really great journaling process. You can do this with your journal, or if you're like me and doing kind of like some auditory processing, open up your voice memo app and talk yourself through the process. This is also something to know about yourself. How do you process best? Reflection is essentially a processing moment for you to catalog what has been, to understand and dig in, and then make some decisions and changes about your future intentions. So with that, I encourage you to set yourself up. You pause this video, or if you want to kind of jump around and do this at your own speed, by all means. This is definitely a create your own adventure opportunity. And I want you to do this so that you walk away with a clear understanding and direction for your next, put in however long you want your time limit to be, so months, weeks, days. This is a reflection process that's focused on intentions and goals, but you could shorten this down. You could do this in kind of your everyday. So we're gonna get started. First and foremost, the thing that you need to do this whole process, this activity, is a starting point. You need to know what it is that you're looking to reflect back on. So your time period, and then also your goals and intentions. That's what we're going to focus on today in our practice. So have your goals, your intentions that you set, and the time frame that you're reflecting back on. And if it helps to listen to them, just have them in your mind, or if you need to have them on a printout, go ahead and do that now. Doing that will help you. So by all means, pause, come back. Once you have your goals and intentions, you're going to get comfortable. Again, this is deep work that you can't do in a highly distracted state. Though I have done this in my car on commutes before. So it's possible, if you have, a repeated activity, you could do this on a walk, do this in movement. I would suggest doing this particular process seated somewhere. But again, your choice. Now, once you have your space identified, you've got your goals and intentions that you're going to be reflecting on, you know your time frame. If you want to have your journal, do your journal, have your voice memos open, and we're going to get started. So sometimes doing a mindfulness practice is really helpful before you do kind of some deep mental, emotional work. So feel free to go ahead and take some deep breaths. really anchor into the current moment, because where you are today is absolutely crucial. It is very key to understanding the reflection process, because where you are today, your environment that surrounds you, the experience that you have cultivated over the last months, weeks, days, whatever that time period you're looking to reflect back on, all of that has to be taken into consideration. You need to focus on a certain level of self-awareness. This is where we're going to be playing a lot. We're going to be delving into your emotional intelligence by identifying emotions that are triggered by certain observations and reflections. And you're going to have to be willing to be honest with yourself. So having the awareness to observe how you're feeling, put a label on it, and then start connecting that feeling to your root truth or a cause, underlying statement. That's where we're going to be going with this. So, taking your deep breaths, anchoring yourself in this moment. Pause if you need to have a little bit deeper mindfulness practice. You want to spend a few minutes really getting present. And then once you're ready to come back, we're going to start with our first step, which is we're going to take this one item at a time. We're going to reflect on one goal or intention that you set at a time. And you're going to repeat this process for each single one. Identifying first what goal or intention you want to reflect on. Understand not just what the goal or intention was, but also recall the why, the motivation, the underlying inspiration that led to you to create that intention or that goal. And with that in your mind, consider the status currently of your progress or lack of progress for that intention or goal. And you're going to do this just by, it could be a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being barely started, and 10 being it's done, it's wrapped, maybe 6 or 7 is on track to be fulfilled, or any other scale that you want to identify. But just go ahead and determine a consistent way to note your status. Once you have your status, pause and reflect on what that status for that intention or goal brings up for you. What I mean by this is notice the emotions. Notice that when you're writing down your status, even though you're doing it in an objective way, you're just observing, what is the status of this intention or goal? Is it done? Is it not done? Is it 50%? Are you feeling on track? Do you feel like this is very far from being completed? That probably brought up, just that process of identifying a status, emotions, triggers, excuses. Those are all tied to your emotional response, your reaction to that status. You immediately want to justify the status itself. It's complete because I did X, Y, and Z, or it is far from complete because I completely dropped the ball and got lazy, and X, Y, and Z also happened. Just notice the main emotions that are coming up for you and make note of those without digging too deep immediately. Just make note of those emotions. This is where we really come into that emotional intelligence. If it's something that's new for you, this might be more challenging. If it's something you're very familiar with in labeling, you're just labeling things right now, this could be something that's pretty easy. Now, once you have that emotion, you have that response, you've labeled this as the status makes me feel, fill in the blank. Start to connect that response, that emotion to its cause, to that underlying truth. We can do this by simply asking the question, why? Why do you feel this way about that status of this intention or goal? Why do you have such a reaction? Sometimes your response might be another emotion. Well, I was lazy, or I completely, maybe gave myself an easy out. I felt like I didn't want to challenge myself. Until you get to that basic truth that you can't answer why anymore, you find it and you say, well, why did you feel lazy? Why did you not challenge yourself? Why are you awesome? Hopefully that's the question you're going to be asking. Ask yourself why until you get to that baseline foundational truth. I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of taking on too much. I couldn't handle taking on this project because these other things happened to me. And sometimes it is our external environment that gets in the way, which is why this reflection process is so crucial to maintaining your forward motion to success. Because the world happens and changes. There are variables that you do not know in the beginning of the year that come to light when you set an intention for your year, when you establish goals for your year. In any situation, there are always going to be variables that change the game. And in order for you to keep moving forward and not invest days, weeks, months doing things the hard way where it does not align because you're still operating under missing information or in a situation that's very different than you initially thought, you can choose to go through this process, understand those underlying truths, and move on to the next step, which is to reassess. You're going to look at your initial why. You're going to go back to the inspiration, the motivation that really supplied the why for this particular intention or goal. And you're going to see, does this still align? Does this feel realistic? And you're going to look at that underlying truth that you've now unveiled in terms of your current status. And you're going to say, does that why statement I set 6 months ago still measure up knowing this basic truth? You're going to use that information and then you're going to reevaluate. And this is where we get into the updates, the optimizations. I like to think of it as optimizing. You're just kind of tweaking. Hopefully you're tweaking and you're not having to start all the way from ground zero, but you're taking all the new information, you're taking this underlying truth, you're identifying the obstacles, you're identifying the variables that have impacted you, but instead of making an excuse, instead of pointing the responsibility on somebody else, you're just going to objectively evaluate, is this something that still lines up? And then you're going to make changes. Sometimes you need to throw the whole thing out because new information, new situations, life changes happen, and that initial goal is just not possible anymore. And it's okay to let go of that. Maybe this gives you an opportunity to add a new, more relevant goal that aligns with your bigger intention and vision for your life. You go through this process and you make those tweaks. You look at, how do I want to move forward with intention through the next weeks and months? How can I adjust? How can I optimize to reach my goals realistically and also take in to light these other new things that have come up? You're going to go through this process for all of your intentions or your goals. And then once you're done, you're going to sit and look at this from 10,000 feet. I ask you to go through each single intention and each single goal because sometimes you observe through this reflection process a bigger pattern, something that didn't show up for you when you asked yourself, how do I feel about my intentions and goals at the beginning of this process, may have come to light going through each one. So when you have your reevaluated and updated goals and intentions, take a moment to sit with all of those and ask yourself, how do you feel about these? Do they still align with where you want to go, with your definition of success, what you saw yourself as being successful at the end of the year or the month or the quarter? Consider that our definition of success can change. Sometimes those big variables in our lives, our external environment, that shifts and we feel disconnected. We feel stuck. We feel unfulfilled and unmotivated. Is your overarching why, your motivation, still resonating? Because if it's not, if you do feel stuck, if the description words feeling stuck, disconnected, unengaged, unmotivated, those are coming up for you, there is an opportunity to look at your larger vision for your life, for your work, and identify some changes now. And this is big work. And this is something that you can tackle now, and then you can realign all of your goals and intentions so that you're moving forward to a place that you genuinely know fits with you, resonates in your heart. And that is ultimately what the reflection process can bring to you. When you stop and you pause, you reflect, you reevaluate, you make adjustments. That's what all of this is for. So I hope this process is helpful for you and you do go through this for your intentions and goals. And certainly let me know if there were surprises or questions along the way. But know that this is something, like I mentioned earlier, you can do this on a daily basis. I used to do this on my commutes home. The bigger reflection work still did on my commutes home. Nowadays, I set aside some time and space so that I can do this. Sometimes it takes revisiting it a few times. Give yourself the time and space to do this. This is big work for you, and this is going to help ensure that you can keep moving forward intentionally towards that success and that this is something that is going to lead to that fulfillment, to that alignment. So I hope you enjoyed, and until next time.